If everyone around you is telling you that not buying a home means working for your landlord, or that your life is over if you don't buy a home, cover your ears immediately. This may be the biggest lie the real estate industry has told over the past 30 years. If you jump on the bandwagon blindly right now, you're likely to ruin your financial freedom for the next 30 years. Today, we'll let the data speak for itself, expose the death spiral currently gripping the housing market, and tell you exactly what ordinary people should do. There is currently an extremely anomalous market phenomenon. Transaction volumes have plummeted, yet home prices remain completely unchanged. Transaction volumes in the U.S. real estate market have just hit their lowest level since 1995, with fewer homes sold than at any time in the past 30 years. Meanwhile, the U.S. population has grown by a full 100 million people since 1995. In a normal market, a collapse in demand, coupled with a contraction in supply, typically leads to a sharp drop in prices. But the reality is that home prices remain firmly near all-time highs. The laws of supply and demand have failed here. The market seems to be frozen in place. The consequence is that young people have been completely squeezed out of the market. In the 1990s, the average age for first-time homebuyers was 28. Now, that number has risen to 40. If you've tried to buy a home recently, you've surely felt moments of despair, even questioning whether you've done something wrong. But that's not the scariest part. There's a hidden death spiral at play. Recognizing high housing prices is only the first step. What truly pushes the market to the brink is a hidden trap that most people overlook. This is also the fundamental reason why the vast majority of ordinary people are being fleeced. Let's start by debunking the first, extremely dangerous financial myth. Buying a home is always the best investment. Everyone tells you that renting is like throwing money down the drain, while buying a home is the way to build wealth. But let us do a simple calculation. In 2019, the median price for an existing home in the U.S. was $272,000 today. That figure stands at $418,000. That's a 46% surge in just 6 years. Note that this isn't just data from Silicon Valley or Manhattan, it's the national median. Meanwhile, mortgage rates have skyrocketed from a low of 2.65% in 2021 to around 6.5% today. The combination of these two factors has created a monster. Take the same $400,000 home with a 20% down payment. In 2021, your monthly payment principal and interest combined would have been just $1,293. But today, for that exact same house, with the same worn-out carpet and the same overcrowded school district, you'd be paying $2,023 a month. That's over $700 more every month for 30 straight years. What does that mean? It means you reworking just to pay the exorbitant interest. Interest that's actually far higher than what you'd pay in rent. The interest you pay the bank and the rent you pay the landlord are, in essence, no different. Both are money you'll never get back. Why has it come to this? Because in 2020, when the entire world ground to a halt, the Federal Reserve was in a state of extreme panic. They slashed interest rates to zero and went on a frenzied money printing spree, buying over $120 billion in bonds every month. It was like pouring excessive fuel on a raging fire. Money flooded the market and borrowing costs dropped to absurdly low levels. On top of that, with everyone working from home, everyone wanted a bigger house. So people fled Manhattan and San Francisco, flooding into places like Austin and Phoenix like a tidal wave. Home prices were driven up by a staggering 37% in just 2 short years. But you might think that since inflation has come down, as long as the Federal Reserve starts slashing interest rates, everything will be fine and housing prices will become affordable again, right? If you think that, you might be walking straight into a trap big enough to bankrupt you. This brings us to the second financial myth, that as long as interest rates go down, buying a home becomes easier. In fact, this is completely wrong. Imagine there are millions of people just like you right now, forced to sit on the sidelines by high interest rates. If rates suddenly drop to 5% or even lower, those millions of pent-up buyers would swarm back into the market overnight, like zombies storming a city. But can the housing supply magically appear overnight? Absolutely not. When massive demand collides with a dried-up supply, there's only one outcome: a second surge in home prices. The interest you save from lower rates will be instantly swallowed up by the extra down payment you'll have to pay in bidding wars. A cure that comes too quickly can actually become a more deadly poison. At this point, we need to introduce a very relatable metaphor to fully explain why this market has frozen. Don't pay any attention to all that financial jargon. Just imagine a limited edition sneaker that's no longer in production. Right now, 51% of all mortgages in the US have interest rates below 4%. In fact, 20% of mortgages have rates below 3%. It's like buying a limited edition sneaker in 2021 at full price, one that will never be produced again. Those sneakers are now firmly strapped to the feet of their owners. Let me run a quick poll. If you happen to be holding onto a limited edition mortgage rate of 3% or lower, please type limited edition or 3 in the comment section so everyone can see if you never in a million years sell your home right now. And if you're waiting outside the door, desperately hoping for prices to drop, feel free to vent about the absurd housing prices in your city in the comments. This is exactly why today's housing market is like a VIP club. If a homeowner wants to sell their current home today to buy a slightly larger one, they're not just moving, they're voluntarily giving up the cheapest money they'll ever get in their lifetime to take on a loan that costs twice as much. Just to switch homes, they end up paying nearly $90,000 more in interest over 10 years. Simply because they want a change of scenery, they repaying a $90,000 penalty. Guess what they'll do? As long as they have a shred of common sense, they'll never sell. That's why today's real estate market is like a doorman at a VIP club. Those inside enjoy the cheapest drinks, low interest rates, and they'd rather die than leave. Meanwhile, those on the outside face exorbitant entry fees, high housing prices, and high interest rates and simply can't get in. Do you think those on the outside can just wait for the economic bubble to burst and then walk in to snatch up bargains? This is actually the biggest illusion that causes most people to miss out on the wealth cycle. This brings us to our third myth, that the current market is just like 2008 and is about to crash. Many people are waiting for a repeat of the subprime mortgage crisis, waiting for foreclosures to flood the market. Don't be foolish. The situation is exactly the opposite. In 2008, banks lent money to people who couldn't possibly repay it, people who even forged their income statements. Back then, more than a quarter of homes were underwater. But today those who qualify for loans have a median credit score of 758, a full 50 points higher than in 2008. Today, homeowners across the US hold a staggering $35.8 trillion in home equity. Only a mere 2.2% of homes are underwater. The current market isn't a powder keg ready to explode at any moment. It's a solid block of ice that's completely frozen solid. Without mass defaults, there won't be mass sell-offs. Without sell-offs, there won't be crash-level price drops. This is a structurally constrained, expensive market. Waiting for a crash is a waste of the most precious compound interest time of your life. But hearing this, you might feel suffocated. If you can't afford it, waiting for interest rate cuts is useless, and waiting for a crash is impossible. Does that mean ordinary people are completely doomed? This is the core breakthrough I want to share with you. Because what truly determines whether you become wealthy or get fleeced by the system often comes down to the final choice you make. Listen, if you can't afford the median-priced home in the US, don't view it as a personal failure. The median household income in the US is $83,700. But to buy a median-priced home today, you need to earn $106,000. There's a gap of over $20,000 built right into the system. This isn't your fault at all. Society, your elders, and real estate agents are all bombarding you with pressure, telling you that you must buy a home before you turn 30. But that was their era, not yours. If you also find the current housing narrative suffocating, please take a second to like this video. Your like not only encourages me, but also signals YouTube's algorithm to push this video to more young people who are being manipulated by real estate agents. Alright, to help you immediately take back control of your life, I'm giving you 3 actionable guidelines that anyone can implement right away. Grab a notepad and write these down. The first screening criteria: the absolutely realistic 30% stress test. When you find a house you like, don't listen to any of the best-case scenarios the agent tells you. Add up your monthly principal, interest, property taxes, home insurance, plus the $300 you must set aside each month for a maintenance fund. If this total exceeds 30% of your pre-tax income, turn around and walk away immediately. Don't hesitate. Stretching your housing costs to 45% of your income won't make you a winner in life. It will turn you into a financial slave who dares not change jobs, dares not get sick, and dares not travel for the next decade. Second major criterion, the 7-year lock-in rule. If you're rebuying this home and aren't 100% certain you'll live here for at least 7 years, don't buy it under any circumstances. Given today's high transaction costs and interest rates, if you move within 3 to 5 years, the real estate agent's commission and the interest you've paid to the bank over those years will wipe out any potential appreciation of the property, and you might even end up losing a significant amount of money. Step 3, and the most important one, if you find that the math of buying a home doesn't add up, switch directly to the renting plus index fund arbitrage strategy. This is a secret that no real estate agent or financial institution will ever tell you, because when you invest your money in an S&P 500 index fund, they don't earn a single penny in commission. If you've done the actual math as we suggested earlier, you'll find that in this environment of high interest rates and high housing prices, setting up automatic monthly investments into a broad market index fund with the money you'd have spent on a down payment, and the difference saved each month is not only a completely legitimate fallback option, it often outperforms the returns from buying a home after 10 years. Renting isn't a consolation prize for losers. It's a top-tier strategy for smart people to maintain liquidity and capital efficiency. If your financial situation truly allows you to buy a home, and you've met the first 2 criteria, focus on new construction. Many developers are currently subsidizing sales out of their own pockets to move inventory, effectively buying out your mortgage rate to around 4.5%. This is the most reliable leverage available on the market right now, but only if you've done the math yourself to ensure the listed price hasn't been artificially inflated. Let's get back to the core issue. The most counterintuitive aspect of investing is that people often let fear and greed drive their decisions. The fear of never being able to afford a home leads you to recklessly take on leverage you can't possibly handle. The greed of seeing others profit from home purchases makes you forget your own actual cash flow. I fully understand the pain of scrolling through listings you can't afford every night, watching rent rise, and silently calculating how much your friends have to pay each month when you attend their housewarming parties. You're a responsible adult who's done everything right. Yet you haven't received the returns your parents' generation enjoyed. But you must wake up to the fact that the script of that old world has been torn up. The mark of adulthood isn't holding a property deed. It's reclaiming control over your life. What is true financial freedom? Freedom of choice. It is the freedom to choose. It means not being trapped in a job you hate by a 30-year mortgage contract filled with compound interest. It means not being locked in a city that no longer sparks your passion by concrete and steel. Stop blindly wasting your energy in this crumbling real estate game and cast aside that societal obsession that you must buy a home. Let your money work for you across the globe through the stock market and low-cost index funds, rather than you working for 30 years just to pay the bank's interest. Before you sign that debt agreement worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, run the real math. This isn't pessimism. It's the only sane way to survive in this crazy and expensive market. Once you fully understand why this market is irrational, you've taken an extremely crucial first step. Will you be fuel for the capitalist system, or will you become the true master of your money? If you feel today's content has helped you shed the label that not buying a house makes you a failure, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. On my channel, we trust only data and common sense. If you have any questions about these 3 strategies, ask me in the comments section. I'll do my best to reply to every single one. See you next time.